everyone, welcome back to another live stream. If you're new here, I'm Vanessa. I am a YA fantasy, paranormal, and horror writer, and also book publisher and diversity reader. And today I am doing a live stream on discussing diversity in films. And we are going to be talking about the new Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. And so I have my lovely co-host here, Holly and Alicia. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yes, hi, I'm Holly, also known as Right Holly Davis. I'm super happy to be here as a little co-host of our second movie diversity discussion, which is super fun. I actually watched it this morning. I wanted it to be super fresh, so I'm like super excited to talk about it. Happy to be here.
And I actually finished it yesterday. I went and saw it yesterday, so also pretty fresh for me, intentionally. And all that to say is I'm Alicia Grumley. You can find me at writer Alicia Grumley. And I am excited to be here and talk about this movie, because normally when we're talking diversity, we talk diversity is lit, but it's fun to talk movies. And I write poetry, and I don't know, I, as of this afternoon, am a 6th year nano finisher. So,
woo! Congrats!
Thank you. Yep, I finished it this afternoon, and I set a new PR in a 30-minute sprint. So that was
wow. What did you do? What did you write in?
What projects or what?
Or how many words?
2016.
Wow.
Oh my god! How many words is that a minute? Like that's how many words a second?
I don't know, but it's my highest before that was 18 something, like 1,800 some change. So I was flying. A lot of my sprints have been like 1,500 words this month, but yeah, I was on the move. So, yes. Well, I probably because I didn't do anything yesterday, so I was like, it's time to finish this. I watched the movie, and that was enough.
Yeah. And we have one more co-host joining us in the chat. Heather is having some Wi-Fi issues connecting, so I think she'll be joining us in the chat and putting her comments there. So, awesome.
And I think she'll be in the chat at some point, right?
Yes.
I don't know if it's tonight, but maybe at some point.
I think she might be commenting on the replay.
Okay.
Yes, but if you are here joining us live, leave a comment in the chat and say hi. And also, let us know if you've seen the movie. What did you think? What were your favorite parts? Also, to start off, spoiler warning right now.
Yeah, we gotta put it in right now.
We are getting into all of the spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie yet, you might want to watch it and then come back and discuss, because this will be full of spoilers.
Or maybe you want to get our opinions on it first and see if you agree going in and come back and discuss that way. We don't know. We're not here to tell you what to do, but we are here to warn you that we are definitely talking spoilers. No way we can't.
Yes. Okay. So I guess just to start off, we'll start off with, I guess, overall general thoughts and stuff. You guys, the movie is fresh in your mind. I am impatient, and so I watched it the first night it came out. So not as fresh in my mind, but there's a lot that stands out.
Oh gosh, I'm like, where do I begin? I'm just like totally just like want to fangirl and just like, yeah, I watched it with my husband and he's like, what'd you think? I'm like, I loved it. He's like, me too. And I'm like, I'm so glad we saw it. And he's like, me too. And it's just like, we haven't like been to a movie theater in a long time as well. Like, you know, less than a handful in the past couple years. So it was such a treat to be able to see it there too, and just like experience it as like a whole new world, like in that setting. And we just watched it like regular, not like IMAX or any of the crazy things, but it was still just like so cinematic. I just feel like everything was just perfect about it. And I didn't like rewatch the first Black Panther before watching this one, but it all just like came back to me like so quickly. And one of the things I love that I forgot that surprised me is that sometimes I get a little thrown off by urban fantasy when there's like fantasy and then it's like, oh, they're talking, you know, about, they're like using the slang and just like immersed in the real world, and like Earth is because like Wakanda is such a special like world. It's not just this like fantasy that like Earth doesn't exist. So sometimes that can be hard for me because I can't suspend my disbelief because so much is set like on Earth. But for like Wakanda and like the tech and the magic, it was just like incredible. And like it just fully brought me into the world and I loved it. So that was like kind of like my first like initial thoughts. There's so much more I want to say, but of course, like 5 out of 5, A++. And I like want to watch it again already.
I'm ready for it to come to Disney Plus. Like, I'm like, okay, because I, like you, Holly, I didn't watch Black Panther before, but I pretty well have that movie memorized. That's kind of a comfort movie for me. I can just kind of put that on as background noise and not necessarily need to be paying full attention to it. And I don't know that Wakanda Forever will become that for me as well, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked what they worked with. I really liked how they handled things. I was warned, you know, both by Vanessa and another friend, if you see it, you're going to be crying. And I mean, like, I cried probably 5-ish times throughout. There's parts because, all right, spoiler, here we go. Like, the cast is not just grieving T'Challa, right? They're grieving Chadwick. And that was just like, you could tell that it was a real thing, that they were grieving their friend and their castmate, and, you know, just all of that. And man, I know, I don't even know what to say. I liked it. It was definitely like a 4.5, 5 for me. There was one point in the middle where I was like, this is going a little slow comparatively, but it wasn't anything where I was like, I'm not interested. It was just kind of like, all right, like, we've seen this happening already. Can we move it along? But I understood why they did it that way, because, you know, things needed to be paced correctly. It was so emotional, Heather. I totally agree. So emotional. Did you guys see the end scene? You know how Marvel does their end scenes?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. And like, I don't understand how people can go and see a Marvel movie anymore and get up before the credits are done. Like,
no, everyone stayed in their seats.
There were people who left yesterday, and I was like, why are you doing that?
Crazy.
Did you see that? Like,
probably.
They might have already seen it and maybe second or third or however many
that's
times.
a good point. Yeah, and maybe, like, you know, they had to get back. Maybe there was a pet or something, and like, I get it, you know, but
you're judging them silently.
How do you not stay for the after scene in a Marvel movie?
I would be more curious about that. Like, when you guys saw it, like I said, it had been out a couple weeks, so maybe they could have seen it before. But even when I watched it that first night, there were people leaving before the end credits, and I'm like, do y'all know what movie you're in?
Right. Like, I screamed when we saw. I'm sure we'll get to that part. and I'll reenact it, but I screamed as soon as they walked into frame. And I was like, I know what this is. I mean, there were a couple other people, and I was like, but I did so much of that reacting, and yeah, oh man, just it was good. It was raw. It was emotional. It was intense. It was well done. I felt like the arcs were completed for that movie, right? For that movie. I don't know that I would say completed.
No, there's definitely more to come for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, initial thoughts, I guess. That was kind of like initial thoughts. Like solid movie. Glad I went to see it. Glad I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
It's one that I think you need to see on a big screen first.
For sure.
I obviously loved it and almost went to see it twice again. And I still probably will, because I had seen it with my brother opening night, and then one of my friends was like wanting to see it, but it had been a long time since the first one, and she wanted to kind of refresh and watch the first one first and then see it. And I was like, well, let me know, because I will go again. I like it.
I think it makes sense, though, like giving yourself a gap like that, like because they don't pick it up right from where Black Panther left off.
Mm-hmm.
They pick it up very specifically 6 years, they say. Like, it's been 6 years since you left us, right? So, like, I can see why she'd want to refresh herself, but I think even if you don't, you're not missing too much.
She's, right? I would say, in her case, she probably would need the refresher because she's not a huge Marvel movie person. Oh, yeah. And so she forgets some of the characters, like even the Queen. She kind of. And so the refresher would have been helpful for her just to reacclimate herself with who the characters were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually didn't rewatch the first one. I did rewatch the first one actually this weekend. I think Friday night. I rewatched the first one and again loved it. But the so my initial thoughts with Wakanda Forever, first off, I was not like, I knew they were gonna have the funeral in the movie. I knew it was gonna be really emotional and hard-hitting and would probably make me cry. I did not expect to be hit with all that in like the first 2 seconds of the opening. I was like, what are you doing to me?
Yeah. And the part that hit me at the end was when they had all the flashes of Chadwick, Black Panther, like, and then it showed like Marvel, like it was like panning out. Yeah. And that
script. Oh God.
That was so hard.
Also, if you go back and watch the first movie on Disney Plus, they did change the intro to be all Chadwick, Black Panther in the opening Marvel.
Wow. Oh, I was warned about that, and even being warned, I was like, "Oh no, they did not."
You can prepare for it too, like you just.
Yeah. And the warning wasn't like a spoiler. It was just like, you know how they like to do things like in that first like scene where it like is going through the Marvel opening.
Yeah.
They do something with that. And I was like, okay. And then like I saw it, I was like, oh.
But what I kind of liked was that they were all in white and they were dancing and smiling, and I kind of saw it as like a, you know, they were seeing it as like a homegoing because like he was going to be joining the ancestors, and yes, they were sad, but like they were celebrating his life. And so I thought that was a beautiful way to portray it, so that, you know, because they knew that it was going to be hard for us. So it made it a little bit easier to swallow, knowing that like there was a celebration of life, which a lot of people do, you know.
Well, and so one of the things I wanted to talk about a lot during this conversation was the fashion and how the fashion wove through, right? And I'm sure we'll touch on it in so many ways. But that particularly was one of the things I wanted to talk about, because in Western culture, white is a celebration color. We wear white at weddings, right? Like, and like it is a celebration. So like to make that parallel, I thought they did a really nice job with. And I think, I know in maybe some Hindu cultures, potentially other cultures, that white is the color of mourning, right? Like, so it's not just a celebration, like they made it, but like it's playing into that as well. And so that was really interesting. And I loved that the warriors, the guard, were carrying the casket, you know, and it wasn't, and
I noticed that too right away. I was like, yeah.
It's the females, right? Like I can't remember what the guard is called, but they have a name. But
I was gonna say, and then I'll get to Heather's comment here. But I was gonna say, as far as, I like that you brought up the fashion and the white, them wearing white and stuff, because that is something that I talk about in my How to Write Diverse Characters course, is to think about the culture you're writing, think about the different customs and different styles and ways that they do things. And like you said, Alicia, in other cultures, white is the color you wear for mourning. And so I like that they brought that in as well, because that's something I have brought up and talked about. And also, like, you know, how in some Indian cultures you wear red for weddings.
Yep.
So just thinking about those changes, like we don't realize it at first, but there's a lot of different changes that we might not be aware of if we're not from a particular.
Yeah.
And Heather said, I wish Shuri didn't have such a rough road to becoming the Black Panther. I walked into the theater expecting it to happen sooner in the movie. I get why the queen had to die, but it made me so sad.
I agree with all those things. Yeah. I mean, it was like 40 minutes left in the film before Shuri becomes Black Panther. And that's like crazy, but I think they did her arc well. So as much as I wish it would have happened sooner, I don't think it could have, because she needed to explore all of that growth and grief, right? And that was something that I was really taken aback by was the queen's death. And I was like, no. Like,
I wasn't expecting that either.
I was like, I better not be seeing what I think I'm seeing here. Like, and but yeah, the queen, like, rocked it this movie. She was such a bright spot for me. Every time she was on screen, I was happy. When she comes into the assembly that first time, when they're all like, oh, you have vibranium and we're gonna like take it from you, you have to share it, and she's like, no. And she just is like in that like powerful purple and the gold and her headdress, and they nailed that costume for her.
Yes.
And like every time she was on screen, I would like to see it again to like make this comparison of when she's got her headdress on and when she doesn't, right? Because it talks about it's like, or what is it, Ree? When Ree like, you hung up on the queen, or no, it wasn't Ree, it was Anna. She's like, you hung up on the queen. She goes, I hung up on my mom. There's a difference. And the moment when she doesn't have the headdress on, she's being Shuri and T'Challa's mom. And those, like, are a really nice balance to see, and like the wisdom that comes with that. And she's like, you know, you have to grieve this. You have to. You cannot stay in your lab every day around the machines. You have to figure out a way to grieve this. She's like, I can't, Mom, because I'll burn the world down, right? And as people who have lived in grief, I get that. Oh, I get that so hard. So I agree that it took a long time to see her as Black Panther, but she needed it to be that long. And I definitely want to talk about her fashion when it's time. Her fashion as Black Panther.
Can I say though, I would actually really like to see, like I was sort of thinking about this recently, and when Shuri says, you know, she'll burn down the world, and I'm kind of thinking, well, go for it. I'm here for it. I'm right there with you. And I was like, you know what? I could see Shuri as being kind of like going down this path of becoming sort of an anti-hero. And I think that would just be really interesting to explore. And they started doing that a little bit in this movie, but they brought it back and didn't end her arc there. But I would have been interested to see how it would have continued and played out in future movies if they allowed her to go down that path.
Yeah, that's it. It was like, I was kind of thinking that a little bit when she was like talking with Namor and learning about the world and experiencing it. And then he kind of gives her this ultimatum, you know, and it's like, you're either for me or against me. And like, we're either going to kill her, kill Riri or not. And like, it was like this like tug of war with like, well, I want Wakanda to be safe, but our like ideals and everything revolve around saving Riri, so that like, you know, so it was just like this, I could see her have this little bit of struggle, and at first I didn't know what she was going to do. So,
and I think that's why it made it so poignant, and I was bawling when I saw this part, when at the end with Namor, when she saw her mom again after everything, and her mom said, you show him who you are. And I just lost it, because I knew, I was like, Shuri's not going to go down that anti-hero path, because she's not. That's not who she is at the end of the day, right? She is good, and it honors her brother's memory, and it honors all these parts of herself and every member of her family that she's lost. But when her mom said, show him who you are, I knew, I was like, she's going to offer him mercy, because that's who she is.
And she is like her brother.
Right. And that's like, who they were trained to be. But like, yeah, like I think she would have been the unchecked Kilmonger if she had been allowed to go down. And that's why it was so incredible that her visit to the ancestral plane was in the room that he burned the purple herb in. Okay, let's just get into it. And her Black Panther outfit, even from the previews, I was like, that is way more in line with Killmonger's Black Panther outfit than it is with T'Challa's. So I was like at one point I was like, is it not going to be her? Are they bringing back Killmonger? Are they, you know, so she like plays out that anti-hero path a little bit in that. I mean, it's Killmonger and he's in white in the ancestral plane, but they are in a room that's burning. That is the room that he burned the purple herb in. And it was so symbolic. I was so impressed with that scene.
It was shocking and surprising, and like the fact that she couldn't tell anyone either. Like she didn't tell anyone who she saw.
Yeah. And I
didn't see anyone.
Right.
She said she didn't see anyone. Yeah.
And but her sister-in-law, what's her name?
Nakia.
Yeah. Nakia knew because she pulled her aside and she's like, before they went to destroy things, she's like, who did you really see? Nakia knew. And she probably had a suspicion of who it was. But I really like that Nakia still maintained that gentle presence that she had even in the first film of this, like, okay, if you're not ready to tell me, that's fine, you know, but she's still a warrior. You know, Nakia is a warrior and she is excellent. The whole film is so good. But watching Shuri take those steps of deciding, like, okay, I'm embracing what Kilmonger said. Are you going to get shit done? Or are you going to take care of business, right? And Michael B. Jordan is a beautiful man. So I was really excited to see him. He wasn't on screen enough for me. But
he showed up. He made his cameo.
But yeah, like, and yeah, that was interesting too, because he was in white on the ancestral plane, even though he was not a good leader, right? Like, again, I think there's something to that too, that even good and bad are erased in death, that we get to see a little bit in this movie that we don't necessarily see in Western culture.
I also think when we say good leader, it depends on your views and how we're defining good leader. Because for some, he may have been like
Wakabi.
Yeah, Wakanda is his name, right?
Yeah.
One of his parents died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for him, Killmonger would have been a good leader because not only did he get justice for his parents' death, he is willing to stand up to the oppressors and fight back and stuff. And there is a sense of, I think a lot of people get the sense of like the reason that they can somewhat in a way root for Killmonger is because he has, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, the purpose or his mission is a good one, but his methods are the problem. Right?
Yeah.
And so we can see his purpose and his mission is to liberate his people and free them from their oppressors, which is good. But the methods he goes about it is by using the same tactics as his oppressors and putting himself on top to oppress others.
Yeah.
Whereas, and we see this more. So I was reminded when I watched the first film again, we see Nakia, also has the same mission and goals of wanting to help others and liberate others, but her methods are vastly different.
Right.
And so that's why I say I think it depends on who, how we define good leader and through whose view we're looking at it.
Yeah. And I think that's a very fair point to make. Thank you for calling me on that, because maybe I should be more specific in saying like effective or something. I don't know. I'll have to play around with that, because he's not respected necessarily as a leader by the majority, right? He is
or more like just or ethical or something like.
Yeah, like there's some kind of word that I want to put on this, but yeah, that's a fair point. Like, I don't necessarily think it's good versus bad, but it's maybe like collateral damage or like willingness to take on collateral damage or something, like, because there's some part of that, like, where the morality is.
in the first Black Panther movie, Kilmonger, he is the antagonist in the movie. However, if it was done from his point of view, he would very much be the anti-hero
Right.
of his story.
Right.
Well, I mean, he has the best line in that first movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's right before he dies, right? And it's my captors or my ancestors knew that, like, death is better than bondage.
Yes, death is better than bondage.
Mm-hmm. And then he yeah. So I think there's something that I want to play around with there, but I don't know exactly what it is. Because like he did lead just in a way, way different way. So good.
And so I wanted to read this comment. Movies and Breakfast says, I hope they bring in a multiversal T'Challa for Black Panther 3. I'm not talking about his son who has his name. A variant of T'Challa to help lead Wakanda. And they very well could, since we are open to the multiverse. They could bring in another T'Challa from another universe.
Well, and I don't get the impression that Shuri wants to lead in terms of being queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she left it. She, the other guy, I don't know his name. He was gonna be fighting, the other warriors for the throne. So it's like she kind of like gave that up. But so that's where I was wondering what was gonna happen, because like she, became the Black Panther, but now there's Prince T'Challa. So is he gonna be like grow into those footsteps and be called something else, or like what, like where is he gonna play into things? That's where that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, she goes by Black Panther. Like her AI, he's like Panther, Black Panther, Panther, and she like introduced herself. I am Black Panther, and like that is her identity now. She's not Queen Shuri, and her mom would never have done that. Not that her mom would have even necessarily taken on Black Panther, but her mom definitely had that more regal, I am the queen. And I mean, we see that with how she lets Okoye go, right? Like, that was hard. That's so hard. But
Shuri's always wanted to be in the action and not be standing on the sidelines.
Heather says I wasn't 100% sure if she was going to show mercy at the end because of the dark cloud over her head. Yet it wasn't cliche how she reacted to both her brother and mother's death. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely understandable how she reacted and, wanting to get revenge. And I definitely do think, again, because of how what you said, Alicia, earlier, that's just the character. Her character is so much in line with her brother and her mother, and so it is in her to show mercy, which, I'm not opposed to her doing that. I just wanted to see that happen a little bit later.
Yeah.
On this path just a little bit more. But I also wanted to so a couple things I want to hit on, but one of them was just the Wakandans having to fight Namor and the Talokans. And so from a story perspective and from a writing perspective, I get why they did it this way, but at the same time, I was like, I really don't want them fighting each other. Like, I wanted them to be on the same side um, from the beginning and having to fight off another big bad, which we'll see in future movies. But I kind of wanted that in this where they were teaming up together to fight someone else, especially because it's when you see Namor and the Talokan and you get more of their backstory, their kind of origins and everything. You can't help but root for them as well. So I'm like, I don't like this. I like both of you.
Right. Well, when you guys were saying that, like, Killmonger is like he's the anti-hero of his own story, that's kind of like with Namir too, or Namor. Like he like was doing things for his people, but going about it the wrong way. So I mean that always makes the best villain, but I did want them to get along too. So, and it seemed at the end that they were, and then it's like, no, they're still up scheming something, and
they it definitely, at the end they ended on good terms as allies, but that scene with him telling one of his followers, how this would make the Wakandans sort of indebted to them, and like not indebted, but like run to their aid when they need it, and he knows that battle is coming. It's just very manipulative, and I was just like, I want this to be a good ally, a good friendship. I don't want the manipulation piece in there. But also at the same time, you see him painting, and you see it's the panther fighting the serpent, and I think that's kind of a foreshadowing of this isn't over. There's going to be more battles between the two of them.
Yeah, I feel like we have to see him turn into the serpent, which I was kind of expecting to see, because like in the previews, they're like, they don't call him whatever. They call him his name, which means the winged serpent god, so I thought that was going to be a bigger part of it. And like, as they did their hand thing there, I was like, oh no, it's a snake jaw. Like, it wasn't like, and it was such
that was his throne too.
Yeah, I was like, that was when I was like, oh, because the snake can remove. Oh, that's like a snake. That's going to be a big deal. Like, and yeah, I think that'll be a really interesting way to see how that comes. But I also think that there's going to have to be, I almost feel like there's going to be some kind of love triangle for Shuri. And I feel like he's going to be on one part of it. And I actually wonder if Riri is going to be on the other side. Because of her brain and the way that she is, and the way that Shuri's like, wait a minute, like I thought I was the best tech, and I don't know. I just feel like Riri gets a couple years older. I mean, she's 19 right now, so maybe they didn't want to play that too hard, but I feel like there could be a real kind of love triangle there, which would be super interesting, because I don't think that we see that kind of bisexual love triangle often, like represented on screens, right?
No, that's like never there. I was happy that Okoye and Aneka were together in the end. I was like, yes.
Was it Okoye, or was it one of the other guards? It was like the new guard, right? It wasn't Okoye. It was
really? I thought it was Okoye and Aneka.
Oh, maybe it was.
I think so. Heather says, do you think we'll see Namor and his people again? For sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think they'll get their own movie at some point.
Yeah, and I really appreciated them weaving in like the Mayan, Aztec, like culture, and seeing those outfits, and so I liked that added element of like diversity in there as well. And like it was like we're hearing Spanish, we're hearing or whatever they were speaking, you know, all these different languages, and it was fun to like see that.
Yeah. Did you guys ever watch Road to El Dorado?
Oh my gosh, so long ago.
Yeah.
So long ago, but so many times. Did you see the game that Miguel and Tulio play when they're trying to convince them that they're gods?
The ball?
The ball hoop? Yes.
Yes.
Like soccer kind of almost.
Okay.
Like,
I was wondering because I saw that. I didn't make the connection, but I was like, wait, I know, like I've seen that before.
you're like, I know what that is, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like another way of bringing that culture in. Because, you know, Road to El Dorado is set in. I'll ship it. I love it.
I loved the tech. Like it's like girl, like STEM girls, you know, it was like girls in STEM, but with like fantasy. And I was just there for it. Cause I'm like, the women are the warriors. There's the queen, there's Shuri, and there's all these like badass women. And I loved it so much. And just how she's like working with the jeans and creating these things and creating the outfits. And it was good to still see her like doing her best and working hard, even though all of those things had happened to Shuri.
Can we also talk about Jabari for a few minutes, please? Because I felt like he was even better in this movie than he was in the last one.
M'Baku?
Yeah. Oh, the leader of the Jabari. Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
He was, they definitely used him as the comic relief, and he was funny in this one. I mean, he had some funny lines in the first one too.
Yeah.
But I think he was more serious in that one, whereas I think in this one he got used a little bit more for, you know, to help make things not so heavy all the time.
But I also feel like that it speaks to that he's a true ally to them at this point too. You know, they didn't have really a relationship in the first movie until he like allowed them to save T'Challa there in his land, right? And then, but it's like I think he's really become a true ally. And then, like I think we see that when he says to Shuri, like, "I promised your brother I would give you guidance, so here I am to do that." But he did have a lot of comedic relief, which was I thought he did a really good job with that. And I think he needed a lot of that because it was heavy, right? But
yeah, I appreciated that when Shuri and Okoye went to get Riri, and she's like, "Wait, you said I'm ashy?" And like she's like, "You said I was okay." And
is it the wrong color? It's the right color. Relax, I can blend in as a student.
Yeah. I love all those comedic moments and those funny moments because it helps a lot with the movie, and you know, makes it so there are moments that you can smile and laugh and go. I was gonna say I do want to kind of bring up, since we are talking about diversity, obviously the big thing that stuck out to me was the fact that they did some scenes in Haiti and were speaking Creole, and the fact that they named T'Challa's son Toussaint, which for those of you who are watching who don't know, Toussaint is the name of the Haitian revolutionary leader that Haitian Revolutionary War. And so when she said that history holds that
like,
name,
like that name holds a lot of good history or something, or like good name.
Oh wow!
Wow. Okay.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I loved it, and I just like seeing the movie and then also going back and rewatching the first one. I was like, kind of surprised. It made me love it even more because I started to see more and more parallels between Wakanda and actually Haiti, which is why I love that they incorporated this and that we're getting a Haitian superhero in the future. Um, but just seeing like in the beginning when the queen, um, I forget what I forget exactly what they said, but you know, just having it at the it was at the United Nations place, right?
Mhm.
And having all the different countries there, and having France be there, and France being one of the ones that was like demanding um, this a resource from them, um, which again parallels if you know about Haitian history. Uh, Haiti was colonized by the French, and so when they did uh, gain their freedom, the French actually, uh, it was like 21 years later, the French was like, okay, well, in order to recognize you guys, you have to pay us this much money because, you know, we lost access to valuable resources in the land. We lost, which not a lot of people know, but back then Haiti was actually one of the wealthiest colonies in the Western Hemisphere. And so they're like, we're losing all those resources and money, and we're losing, you know, slaves and this and that. And so they demanded payment from Haiti. And so, kind of seeing, uh, you know, that beginning where the French is kind of like, well, we're supposed to, your son said he would give us this, uh, shared the knowledge or resources vibranium. We're supposed to get this, and like seeing the soldiers in the beginning sort of like fight their way to try and get the resource. And the I think it's Dojar, don't I forget the female warriors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Seeing
We're
them,
You're right. It's something. Dojar. You're.
yeah,
Yeah.
but seeing them fight um, to protect that and like bring the soldiers prisoners into the nation on their knees. That just I saw kind of the parallels and also saw like what I wish what I'm sure many Haitians wish they could have done um, to the French. Um, so yeah, I saw that parallel, and then, like I said, even in the first movie, rewatching that when uh, what's his name, the agent, the colonizer,
Colonizer. What is his name?
that's the way he's going by in my head.
What's his?
I don't know. But
Wait, hold on. Let me look.
I don't remember, but
when do I get to go see my favorite colonizer?
yeah.
Everett Ross.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the first movie, when they're talking about Kilmonger, and he tells them he was a CIA operative, and he's like, "This is how they operate." You know, they place themselves in position for when there's a transition of power or a death, when there's turmoil, they can kind of go in and control things. Um, so he was kind of explaining that and explaining that's what Kilmonger was doing, which again, the parallel with Haiti, that's exactly what happened with every time, U.S. came in and occupied Haiti was during kind of that time of turmoil. Heather said, yes, the politics were too real. Very well done in the movie. Yeah. Yes, they were. So
I thought this was interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it just made me appreciate it even more.
Wow.
Watching it again. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. wouldn't have known.
This kind of ties into that a little bit, how Nakia, like, even though she's in Haiti, right, and she's there and raising their son there and, all of that, when Shuri's talking to her, she's like, but I'm still Wakandan, and I'm sure that was like a resonating point of like, I can live wherever, but that doesn't mean I'm not Haitian or I'm not, like any of those other things. And I thought that was a really, like, they just had so many poignant lines, Well,
and that like the queen got to meet Prince T'Challa, and like that's how he introduced himself. He's like, this is my name and I'm Prince T'Challa. And like it was like
son of Queen T'Challa.
Yes, that part. Yes.
The feels. But like when she asks him, who are you, in the native tongue, right? Like and it just like gives back that parallel of asking to Killmonger, of asking to T'Challa, of asking, who are you? And then like also that parallel of her mom saying, show him who you are. So it was just so neatly wrapped, and I really liked all those threads that made that.
Yes.
Because she said, who are you? And that's exactly what they say to Killmonger in the first movie. Like it's not like, what's your name? It's, who are you? And that is so interesting to me, that because it's always Queen Ramonda, son of Mabu, right? T'Challa, king of Prince, or of son of
King T'Challa.
Yeah. So it's always not introduce yourself, but it's, who are you in relation to your people? And that's really interesting too.
I love that.
Something else I wanted to say, when you mentioned their native tongues, was how the detail they put into language and words in this movie. And just like, because, okay, so two things. One was, in terms of Namar's character, I've heard some people say, pronounce it Neymar, and some is Namar, and people were kind of debating on what's the correct pronunciation and stuff. And I saw an interview. If I can find it again, I'll link it. But I saw an interview where I think it was the director actually was talking about how in the movie they say it both the ways, Neymar and Namar, because people, different people pronounce things differently, and some people pronounce it wrong. And when I saw that interview and I heard that, and I was like, oh, and it made me go, okay, so maybe they were intentional with the way they were pronouncing Haiti, because they didn't pronounce it the way a Haitian would say, even though they were speaking Creole. They kind of said Haiti, like with the which Haitians would say Haiti, so the H is silent. And at first, when I heard them speaking, I was like, is this just like because of their accent that they're trying to used in the movie. Maybe the accent is coming through. But then when he said that in the interview, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I was like, it just made me realize how intentional everything they did in this movie, how intentional they were about it.
Yeah.
Well, and like you're saying with that, the intentionality of the language, when Namor is explaining it and it's no love, I was like, oh, son of a biscuit, because it is in Spanish and Latin.
No more.
Yeah.
No more. And I was like, whoa, that was tricky. I loved it. I love
that too.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So many good parts. It was a long movie. It was long.
It was.
2 hours and 40 minutes, I think.
I was telling Chris, I'm like, oh, that went by so fast for me because I've been just binge watching Netflix. So like all of these episodes of a show equals like a 5-hour long movie. So like 2 hours, 40 minutes, that's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that went by faster than I thought it would. That's what I said to him when I walked out.
That's funny.
So I was okay, but I know you wanted to talk about the clothing and Shuri's clothing, Alicia.
Oh yeah. Okay. You have time for a little bit of this, Vanessa? I didn't know. How long were you hoping to run this?
As long as you guys want to be here.
Okay. So it was so interesting to me the way that they used Shuri's clothing as a way to express her growth as a character, because we see so much of her in traditional Wakandan garb, right? For lack of a better term, whatever that looks like in the first movie, right? She's in, and like we see it in the flashbacks, we see it all the ways. She even talks about it, but she has become so much more modernized, maybe, or like almost westernized too, as she's dealing with the tech and all of that. And she could blend in as a student because she was in just these outfits that felt very westernized to me. Mm-hmm. And there was also something to that where she felt more like herself in this second movie in her outfits. It's kind of like, I always make the connection that I love the final scene of Frozen 2 because we see Anna and Elsa completely themselves. We see Anna ruling as Queen of Arendelle, and we see Elsa free. And like with that, as she takes that deep breath at the end of the movie, Shuri's outfits in this movie felt like she was coming into herself to me. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool. I really like looking at the ways that fashion like plays into plays and movies, of course. And she was never, when she was in things that she chose, and when she was designing armor, she was never in the traditional Wakandan garb that she had been previously. And I think some of that has to do with when you lose the people most important to you, you have to re-identify yourself and you have to redefine yourself. And so for someone who's supposed to introduce herself as, I am Princess Shuri, daughter of King T'Chaka and Queen Ramonda, like she's separating herself from that a little bit. I am Princess Shuri, sister of King T'Challa, right? She's separating herself by wearing those clothes, because even when T'Challa was being casual king, right? She's like, get your toes out of my lab. Like she was always like in like Nikes and like her kids were great, right? But she kept in that very traditional kind of mindset. And I think that speaks to how she was able to replicate the herb, because Shuri is a forward thinker. She is not someone who is going to solve problems with the same thinking that they were used to create them, right? I mean, it's a pathetic herb, but then we see her planting it and giving it a chance to grow and be real at the end, so she honors her past in a very interesting way while still carving out her future for herself. And I thought that was super interesting.
I love that insight.
I've never really paid much attention to the clothes and fashions in movies before, but hearing you explain all that, I'm like, I definitely want to go back and watch it with the intention of looking at their clothes and their outfits and how they style themselves.
Yeah. And how they use those to always on the regal thing to be regal.
You're kind of cutting in and out, so it was hard to hear what you said.
I just something and how they use the fashion as a way of armor too. They use fashion to present what they want to see to the world.
Yeah.
Or what they want the world to see of them. And when she's did I cut out again?
No, we could still hear you. The screen was just
when she goes to Talokan, right? And they tell her, here royalty wears this particular garb. We made this for you, right? And so they were starting to make this parallel of maybe this is going to be our queen, and even if she's not royalty to us, she is royalty to someone, and she should be treated as such. And it was very, very interesting to see that, and just all of the Talokan people, how they because the second in command, the one he's kind of talking to at the end, the one with the big woohoo, right? It was so I think it's the lionfish has those big spikes like that. And so I was like, that's what they were pulling from that. And to see some of those skulls of those animals that they had put on, I was like, oh, that feels very Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And if you go back and look at the character that's alluding to, it is a character who is trapped under the sea and who is, meant to be so it's a hammerhead skull, right? There's the warrior who has the hammerhead skull, and it's super, super interesting to me that they can say so much without using any words.
Oh, I didn't see the hammerhead skull guy. That sounds cool.
Yes, he did, because he was the one that would fight Okoye. He's the one that was warrior. You're not worth my blade. That was a skull.
Got it. Cool. I have to go back and see that too.
I know. I'm like, oh, can't wait. But I can't go watch this 15 times in the theater.
No.
I really like the scene where Okoye gets to fight him again and have kind of that do-over. I just after everything that she went through and how that first fight with them, I was like, wow, she can really hold her own. She's fighting 3 or 4 of them at a time, and she really held her own against them. But you could see how after she still lost, and she lost Shuri at that time as well, and you can see how that kind of weighed really heavily on her, especially after the queen demoted her. And so to see her get that chance, it was kind of like her redemption arc, I guess, where she kind of redeems herself, and it's I can, I just like that she got that second chance.
Yeah. That part where she's like begging the queen. Oh, that part was so emotional too.
Oh, that was so
like, Mommy.
hard.
Yeah.
That was so hard. But I think Okoye had my favorite line in this movie, where she said, like, I am Okoye, general of the Dorja, and I still have a lot of fight left in me. Do you, Annika, still have any left in you? And she gets that grin on her face, and I'm like, oh, yep, there it is. Like, all right, let's go. Like in typical fashion, right? Like, all right, suit up. We got shit to do. Yeah. I like that. I've still got a lot of fight left in me. All right. All right, we can play with that.
Love it.
Well, I guess any last thoughts or any favorite lines from this one, or anything you guys want to bring up before we wrap up?
I think it was.
Oh, go ahead, Holly.
I was just gonna say, like, I just love that there were so many memorable moments, and whether it was like heartfelt, funny, the action, like I feel like it was super well rounded and just made for just a strong story. And because we're all storytellers, like we can pick apart things and this arc and this pacing and this and that, but like for it to really like enrapture us as it did, like it has to do a hard job for writers, so right. it did magnificently.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gonna say, I like that we got to see her burn her funeral shroud at the end by herself, and that we got to see all of those flashbacks, and that we got to see her do what her mother had asked.
Yeah.
And yes. that was a lot too. Now, she didn't do it for her mom yet, but she will. And I think that's what that leaves us with, is it's that she's not going to, the only thing that she will burn anymore is that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's at the end of the day the protector.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
She might not want to rule as queen, but she will fight to the death to be their protector.
Yes, queen, not in that way.
Yeah, but if she has to fight to protect her nephew, if she has to fight to protect that throne, whatever it means,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great. And it was great to see so many female characters on screen in so many different ways, and in so many different ways of power, I felt like.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Like the director of the FBI. Like, every place where there could have been a female in power, there was. And that was awesome. Director of the FBI, Queen Ramonda, the general, Shuri herself, France's ambassador, just on and on and on and on. Even the second in command for Namora was a woman, right? I mean, I would say she was probably second or third, right? I mean, I might say that the shark head guy was maybe second, but they didn't like strategize like he did. But
yeah, she seemed second to me.
She was pretty secondy, right? So
I'd be interested. Like, I would be really interested to see, like, I do think they'll eventually give Namor his own movie, and I do want to see like what they do, like how they expand with that. And I was really interested in his story and his people, and how, I like that we got like how they came to live underwater and have this whole city underwater thing. But I do want to see more, and see more of their city, their culture, their civilization, and how they've built things. So yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some good stuff. Did you think we were going to get the Mamiwata, the mermaids, when they were like sitting there like
that's what I forgot to mention. The siren call at the beginning when you hear there's like they do the siren call and you just see all these people jumping a ship jumping overboard, and I was like, are we getting sirens?
What? So I guess that was like the only disappointment is that we didn't get sirens. But I mean, for a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, for the fact that we didn't exactly get sirens like we wanted, probably
in a way they were sirens. They
right.
just didn't look like what we typically think sirens would look.
Well, and I wanted them to have more screen time. Like if they were going to be sirens, I wanted them to, be sirens. You know, like full on. Like let's go. Like all right, let's fun.
Yeah, but I definitely was like really super interested when that part comes in, especially when they were like, I forget what they said, but someone made the call to like they were saying go get Neymar, or I forget exactly what they were saying, but when they called him out, and you can see because it started turning on them, things started turning on them, and they knew they needed Neymar to because he was the strongest, most powerful of them, and so just having him kind of, I guess, make this huge grand entrance sort of thing, I was like, whoa, okay, it was really cool to see, just to see him come up and immediately take out all of them, and I was just like, okay, we know who's the strongest leader here.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I forgot. That again, this goes to show how, Alicia, you were saying, how much of a forward thinker Shuri is, because she realized that his power comes from the fact that he can inhabit both water and air and land at the same time. But if you dry him out, it weakens him significantly.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, those the water masks were cool, and I when you were saying that last part, then I was thinking like, oh shoot, we forgot to talk about how she figured that out and like dried him out, and that I thought that was like it's like the smarts at her finest, and yeah, that was a cool like world building bit too.
Although I will say, like, one thing I wasn't really sure about, I was like, okay, is this like just sort of a power of being the Black Panther, or is she kind of running on adrenaline, or what the heck? Because when he stabs her right there, first off, I was shocked, I was surprised, but I was just thinking, like, how in the world is she surviving that? Like, she just pulls it out and then continues and goes after him and stops him. And I'm just like, how in the world? Like,
yeah, I guess I didn't think about that because like we saw the suit like regenerate, so I was assuming that she was just kind of like healing at the same time, but like how?
I think it was because I think the only way that it worked, right, is because the suit was pierced. It's like Basilisk Fang. The suit was pierced by another piece of vibranium.
Okay.
And so when Shuri was like making the herb to become the Black Panther, right? She ground up that bracelet that he gave her. So she took it into herself. So now she's a little laced with vibranium.
Got it. Makes sense.
That makes okay.
So
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think it's both and. I think it's power of being the Black Panther, but I think it's how she became the Black Panther. Because if it were T'Challa, like when Killmonger stabs T'Challa, you know, he's still kind of regenerating. But that was also with a vibranium weapon, right? So I think in order to pierce the suit, it has to be vibranium. And then because she took on that power, I think she gave herself a little bit of immunity. If I had to guess.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense now, because I was thinking about that and I was like, but no, even the Black Panther, if they got stabbed like that, would die like Killmonger did. But now that makes sense if she had the vibranium in her as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't catch that, but
cool.
Or but like just different enough of their vibranium, right? To be, because it's like the underwater vibranium. Maybe the earth vibranium is different or something. But yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah, so any last thoughts, any predictions for the future movies?
Oh my goodness. Well, so when I was looking up and researching stuff, and actually because I was like, wait, like Riri, like, is that her, like, her full name? And I was trying to look her up and they were just calling her Ironheart. And
I was wondering if she was related to Iron Man because of the suit.
Ironheart, but then we were like, wait, like the suit, like I wonder if she's gonna become like an Iron Man. And so then when I saw Ironheart, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So Riri's definitely not gone from the scene.
No, they're setting her up to be the next Iron Man.
Yeah.
Well, she's got a lot of that Tony to her, but we can maybe talk about that later.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know what's gonna happen with like who's gonna rule Wakanda and who's gonna like, I just like it's all up in the air. I'm like anything can happen. So,
which I forgot to ask you guys' favorite characters, because Riri was one of my favorites. I loved her.
Yeah, we did not talk about her nearly enough.
Shuri and Riri for sure.
Ramonda.
Yeah. I could see you loving Ramonda.
I think so. I think it was her this time. I mean, Shuri was great. Everybody was great. Ross as, you know, the colonizer. When she says, he's like, why did you call? And she's like, why would I have your number? So funny. But yeah, I don't think we talked about Riri nearly enough, but she was excellent.
Oh, yeah. She's just one of the badass females, so
yeah. Heather, did you have a favorite?
Yeah, Heather, let us know if you're still with us, who your favorite was. But yeah, I definitely can't wait to see more of Riri. I believe I heard she's getting a show on Disney Plus.
That would be awesome.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
telling you, I'm here for the love triangle. I'm here for it.
Oh gosh. I feel like. So, were you saying with Namor?
Well, I guess maybe like an almost triangle.
Because at first I was like, when they were talking and stuff, I'm like, man, I could see them kind of like being a thing. But then I was like, but his name is No Amor, you know? So.
Well, that was given to him by his enemies.
Right.
His people don't call him that.
Right. But he took on that name. Like once he said, like, you're the child with no love, he's like, I am now no more, you know? So like he kind of, they called him that, but he like took that on. So I just kind of felt like once they said that, I'm like, yeah, no, he's not lovable. like.
But isn't that the best kind of love? The one that like overcomes all of that shit and like convinces the one that thinks they're not lovable that they are.
Oh,
Just as
it's
they
gonna
are.
be so much more heartbreaking when Shuri chooses Riri.
I
Oh,
know, Shuri's totally gonna choose Riri.
she's gonna break his heart.
I didn't even. I hadn't even thought about any love interest in this movie and this one until you brought up the love triangle, and I'm like, okay, interesting. I didn't even think about
Paula
that.
had to see that. Yeah, so why not? You know.
Yeah, I don't know though. Even though I want her and Lamar to be allies, I have a hard time picturing them together, like as a couple.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But I think he's gonna pursue her. I think he's gonna give her a run for her money.
Maybe.
I could see it because he was already trying. He was already wooing her. He gave her his mother's bracelet. Like he was showing her around. Like, I mean, that was kind of like a date. Like he took her down and showed her all around, and he didn't bring no Riri with him on that. Like it was like, like, oh, maybe this mortal could be my person.
I did appreciate though that like the romance was not the focus of this story,
right?
That was a different arc. So I liked that like it wasn't like this, like there wasn't some forced subplot with romance or anything like that. I appreciated that. Yeah.
And also looking at her arc, another thing I forgot to say, there's so much with this movie.
I know there's so much. I feel like we haven't even talked
about. Looking at Shuri's arc, I like after we left the movie, I told my brother, you know, all of this, the fighting with them and the queen dying and all of this could have been avoided if Shuri was more of a leader back when she had gotten kidnapped, but she wasn't ready to be a leader, and I can see, you know, this is why this had to happen and she had to go through this arc. But in my head, what I was thinking was when Nakia came to rescue her and get her back, at first she tried to say no, she can't leave, but then she eventually went with Nakia. My thinking, I'm like, okay, what I would have done is I would have been like, here, take Riri and go. I am not leaving because this is going to start a war that we do not want to start. I'm going to stay and talk with Namor. You take Riri, get her out of here, get her to safety. And then when Namor comes back, you know, kind of be like, yes, I had an opportunity to escape, but I didn't because I want us to be on the same page. I don't want to make you an enemy, and I don't want to fight with you. So,
do you think that would work? Do you think it would work like that? Because
I'm not entirely sure that would have worked, but what I'm saying is I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have started this as big of a conflict with them as it did, because I think it would have shown, okay, she's still here when she had the chance to leave, and she's still willing to, like, you know, want to be an ally. So there's something here I can work with, even if he is thinking, you know, in a manipulative way. There's some way I can manipulate this relationship to my benefit, but at least there would have been like, okay, there's something here I can work with. Maybe we don't have to start again. That was my hope, because again, I wanted to see them team up to fight someone else, not each other.
Yeah. I wonder if it would have worked because he had already told her he was going to burn the world, right? At that point. He was like, I'm going to burn it whether you're with me or not. And if you're not, then you're getting burned too. So I wonder if she was kind of just like, well, those were the options. And Shuri and Okoye were your favorites. Okay. But I also have to wonder about, I totally just lost what I was going to say. Oh, that she was acting in the capacity of princess at that point. She was not acting in the capacity of queen, which goes back to what Vanessa said about she wasn't ready to be a leader yet because she didn't choose to become queen, right? Just like T'Challa didn't choose to become king.
Yeah.
But she was acting as princess. She wasn't acting in the best interest of her people at that point because she didn't have to because she was queen or she wasn't queen yet.
Yeah.
So, I that would have been an interesting like alternate scene.
Fanfic time.
Right, Vanessa, we'll read it.
An alternate universe is very good.
Yeah. An MCU AU.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for chatting with me for this long about the movie. It was great. And I know we could probably chat for hours about this. Thanks for being here and discussing it with me. Definitely for those of you watching, go and follow both of these ladies, all of them really. Heather as well, who had technical issues and couldn't be here live, and Teresa. All of their links will be in the description box below. So go check them out and give them a follow. And I guess, and we'll also go follow the Diversity is Lit book club because we'll be discussing our November book pretty soon here. So,
And if you guys have any
plug, because I have it right next to me.
Nice. But if you guys have any thoughts about other movies you might like to see us discuss sometime, please let us know because like we just kind of are doing this as like a side thing. We really enjoy talking about the movies, diversity in movies. We try to keep it focused on the book club, but if there's ever like something where you're like, hey, we'd really love to get your feedback on this movie or whatever, I think we're usually pretty open to that. So let us know in the comments if there's anything that you think, hey, we'd love to see another chat like this. Because these are never like exactly planned. They're planned in terms of like, oh, like diversity is lit. Let's do Turning Red. Or like, hey, Black Panther when it comes out, let's do that. Right. But it's never like we're seeking out the movies to kind of dissect.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that. If anyone has any recommendations, leave them in the comments below. So that is it for today. I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.